World War II was finally over. The bad guys lost. Hitler was gone. Everyone in the streets was happy. They danced and sang. The United States of America and the Soviet Union were the big winners. They gave each other a high five. They smiled. But their smiles were fake. Actually, they did not like each other. They were very different. The USA was capitalist. This means people can have their own businesses. They can buy nice cars. They can say what they want. They love money and freedom. The Soviet Union was communist. This means the government owns everything. The government gives you a job. The government gives you a house. You cannot say bad things about the boss. They love sharing and control. The USA said, "I am the strongest." The Soviet Union said, "No, I am the strongest." The USA said, "Your ideas are bad." The Soviet Union said, "No, your ideas are bad. Also, your haircut is ugly." "Okay, now I am mad," said the USA. This was the start of the Cold War. It was called cold because they never fought each other directly. If they fought, it would be a hot war. But they were too scared to fight. Why? Because of the big bombs. The USA had the atomic bomb. It was a very powerful weapon. One bomb could destroy a whole city. The USA felt safe, but soon the Soviet Union got the bomb too. "Look," said the Soviet Union, "I have a bomb." "Oh no," said the USA, "I need more bombs." So the USA made more. Then the Soviet Union made more. "I have 10 bombs," said the USA. "I have 20 bombs," said the Soviet Union. "I have 1,000 bombs," yelled the USA. It was crazy. They had enough bombs to destroy the world 10 times. They knew a simple rule. If you attack me, I will attack you. Then we both die. So they just looked at each other angrily. They decided to divide Europe. The west part was friends with the USA. The east part was friends with the Soviet Union. Winston Churchill from Britain said, "An iron curtain is now across Europe." It was not a real metal curtain. It was a line you could not cross. The biggest problem was Germany. Germany lost the war. The winners cut Germany into pieces. The west part belonged to the USA, Britain, and France. The east part belonged to the Soviet Union. The capital city, Berlin, was special. It was inside the east part. But the city was also cut in half. West Berlin was free. East Berlin was communist. Stalin was the boss of the Soviet Union. He wanted all of Berlin. He looked at a map. He saw a road going to West Berlin. "I will close this road," Stalin said. "Now the people in West Berlin have no food. They will come to me." The people in West Berlin were hungry. They had no bread. They had no milk. "Help us, USA!" they cried. The USA did not want to start a war. They could not use tanks, so they used airplanes. This was the Berlin airlift. Every day, planes flew over Berlin. They dropped boxes of food. They dropped coal for heat. They even dropped candy for the kids. Stalin watched the planes. He waited 1 month. He waited 5 months. The planes did not stop. "Fine," Stalin said. "You win this time." He opened the road again. But the world was still scared. The USA started a club called NATO. It was a team. If you attack one country, you attack all of them. The Soviet Union said, "I can make a club too." They made the Warsaw Pact. Now it was Team Blue versus Team Red. Then fighting started in Asia. Korea was a country split in two. North Korea was communist. South Korea was not. In 1950, North Korea attacked. "We will take everything," they said. The USA went to help South Korea. "Not so fast," said the USA. The Americans pushed the North Koreans back. They went far up north. But then China joined the war. China was communist too. They had millions of soldiers. "Surprise!" yelled China. They pushed the Americans back down. It was very cold. Soldiers froze in the snow. They fought for 3 years. Many people died. Finally, they stopped. They drew a line in the middle. North Korea stayed north. South Korea stayed south. Nothing changed. It was a tie. "That was useless," said a soldier. After the war on the ground, they wanted a war in space. In 1957, the Soviet Union put a metal ball into space. It was called Sputnik. It flew around the Earth. It went beep, beep, beep. The Americans looked up. They were shocked. "How did they do that?" asked the USA president. "Our rockets just explode." The USA tried to launch a rocket. It went up 3 feet and fell down. Boom. It was embarrassing. The Soviet Union laughed. "We are winning the space race." Then the Soviet Union sent a dog into space. Then they sent a man named Yuri Gagarin. He was the first human in space. "I am the king of the stars," said Yuri. The USA was very sad. They needed a big win. The new president was John F. Kennedy. He was young and handsome. He said, "We will go to the moon." "The moon?" people asked. "That is very far." "We will do it before 1970, promised Kennedy. The scientists worked very hard. They built huge rockets. Finally, in 1969, the American rocket Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Neil Armstrong walked on the dust. "One small step for man," he said. The USA put a flag on the moon. "We won!" they cheered. The Soviet Union did not go to the moon. They gave up on that idea. But back on Earth, things were getting scary again. In Berlin, people in the East were unhappy. They did not like the communist rules. They looked at West Berlin. West Berlin had nice shops. They had rock and roll music. "I am leaving," said a man in East Berlin. "Me too," said his neighbor. Thousands of people walked from East Berlin to West Berlin. The Soviet Union was angry. They were losing all their workers. "We must stop them," said the Soviet boss. One night, soldiers came with trucks. They put up wire. They put up concrete blocks. They built a huge wall right through the city. This was the Berlin Wall. Families were cut in half. A mother was on one side, her daughter was on the other. They waved over the wall, but they could not touch. Soldiers stood on the wall with guns. "Do not cross," the soldiers shouted, "or we will shoot." The wall stood for a long time. It was a symbol of the Cold War. Then trouble moved to an island near the USA. It was Cuba. Cuba is very close to Florida. It is sunny and warm. A man named Fidel Castro took over Cuba. He had a big beard and liked cigars. He was a communist. "I like the Soviet Union," Castro said. "Can we be friends?" "Yes," said the Soviet Union. "I have a gift for you." The gift was nuclear missiles. The Soviet Union put secret missiles in Cuba. Now they could hit any city in the USA very fast. American spy planes flew over Cuba. They took photos. The American president looked at the photos. His face went white. "These are missiles," he said. "They are pointing at us." This was the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was the scariest moment of the Cold War. The world held its breath. Everyone thought the end was coming. President Kennedy made a decision. He put American ships around Cuba. He made a blockade. "No more Soviet ships can enter," Kennedy said. The Soviet ships were coming closer. The American ships were waiting. It was like a game of chicken. Who would turn away first? The world watched on TV. People prayed. At the last minute, the Soviet ships turned around. "Phew," said the world. The Soviet Union took the missiles back. The USA promised not to invade Cuba. It was very close. Too close. But the fighting did not stop. It moved to Vietnam. Vietnam was like Korea. The North was communist. The South was not. The North wanted to take the South. The USA said, "We must stop this. If Vietnam becomes communist, then the next country will too. It is like falling dominoes." So the USA sent soldiers to Vietnam. It was a jungle war. It was very hot and rainy. The trees were thick. The enemy hid in holes in the ground. They hid in the villages. You did not know who was a friend and who was an enemy. The USA had big planes and bombs, but they could not win. The Vietnamese soldiers knew the jungle better. Years passed. Many young Americans died. People in America were angry. They marched in the streets. "Stop the war!" they shouted. "Bring our boys home!" The music on the radio was all about peace. Finally, the USA left Vietnam. The North won. Vietnam became one communist country. The USA lost. It was a sad time for America. By the 1980s, the Cold War was old. Both sides were tired. The Soviet Union had big problems. They spent all their money on bombs and rockets. They did not have money for food. The shops were empty. People stood in line for hours just to buy toilet paper. "I want sausage," said a Russian man. "We have no sausage," said the shopkeeper. "We only have pictures of sausage." A new leader came to power in the Soviet Union. His name was Mikhail Gorbachev. He had a red mark on his head. He was different. He saw that his country was poor. He knew things had to change. "We need to be more open," Gorbachev said. People should be able to speak. He met with the American president, Ronald Reagan. Reagan was an old actor. He was tough. "Mr. Gorbachev," Reagan said, "tear down this wall." Gorbachev wanted peace. He signed papers to reduce the number of bombs. The tension went down. In Eastern Europe, people saw that the Soviet Union was weak. They started to protest. In Poland, they marched. In Hungary, they cut the wire fences. Gorbachev did not send tanks. He let them do it. "We are free!" the people shouted. Then, on a night in November 1989, something amazing happened in Berlin. The boss of East Berlin made a mistake. He said on TV, "People can travel now." "When?" asked a reporter. Immediately," said the boss. Thousands of people ran to the Berlin Wall. The guards did not know what to do. "Open the gate!" the people yelled. The guards opened the gate. People from the east ran to the west. People from the west ran to the east. They hugged. They cried. They climbed on top of the wall. They hit the wall with hammers. Smash, smash, smash. The wall came down. The symbol of the Cold War was broken. Soon the Soviet Union fell apart too. It broke into many smaller countries, like Russia and Ukraine. The red flag came down. The Cold War was over. There was no big explosion. There was no fire. It just ended. The USA was the only superpower left. They looked around. "I win," said the USA. "Okay," said Russia. "Do you want to buy some oil?" "Sure," said the USA. The world was different now. It was not perfect, but people could sleep without fear of a giant bomb. and that was a pretty good thing.